right, guys. Quick shout out here. MyMetaFi is home of all the guest primers, all the free tournaments, all the giveaways, and all my personal guides. These guys in front of you are freshly updated over there. You see Issa Tempo, Beanstalk Control, Jeskai Wizards, Eldrazi Aggro, Blue-Eyed Riddler, Demir Tempo, Affinity, Omniscience. All these and more you find over on MyMetaFi. Use code ECO50 for a juicy 50% off your first month as a Book Smart Baron. I can't wait to see you over there. All right, guys. Some more Legacy gameplay today. I am playing in a Legacy challenge with Affinity. We try and be aggressive. We can grind with Emery. Our creatures are annoying. Versus Saga is a must kill. Sideboard-wise, we're trying to adjust for all the combo decks in the world. And including Graveyard, including Spell Combo, including, you know, the Doomsdays of the world. A little bit of removal, a little bit of upgrades in the Trinket department. And yeah, let's see what we can do. Opening hand here looks great. Let's see. Oh, we're up against the cool Omori mono creature deck that this player actually top forward with recently. So let's see. That deck is probably quite annoying to play against. It only has creatures, if I recall correctly. Let's try and read this card. Companion. Shares a card type. So I guess in theory, the opponent can play mono instants, right? But this is going to be a mono creature deck. I'm pretty sure about that. So let's talk a little bit about our hand. I can go turn 1 Guardian with Force backup, cantrip 3 Baubles, and try and, I guess, recycle my hand into new stuff. This is not bad. I will say it's probably not at its best against a deck like this, but sure, it's fine. Mana Confluence, that could help me. So Ocelot Pride is annoying, but it's a card that Memory Guardian does a good job of handling. So let's play out our artifacts here. Hang on to the Force for now. So let's see. If I bobble myself and I have like Kappa Cannoneer, I could see not tracking the rest of the baubles. So I guess we should do that. What do we have? We have a pedal. So now I am ready to fire off all the baubles. Badger Mold Cup. And what's the card in hand? Yavi Maya. Okay, sure. So I guess that card makes Mana Confluence less punishing. All right. Lots of action here. We draw into some more zeros and potentially a worse blue card. So if my opponent has a good play here, I will stop it with Force Pitching Sing into Stupor and then try and play another Guardian. Can I play a Hasty Guardian? I can't. I would need another mana. Also, I'm not even sure that's smart with how Ocelot Pride works. Let's see. What's the follow-up from the opponent? Badger Mole Cub. That card is fine. I'm stalling the attack step this turn. Unless I get solituded, I guess. I didn't study my opponent's list too much. I just noticed it when doing my normal research. Okay. So this is now Hasty Guardian if I want to. Hasty Guardian if I want to. Let's play out our stuff. So let's see. The opponent's getting back 1 life, and I'm attacking for 7. Maybe that is a situation we should take. Here's Boots. Yeah, the opponent getting back 1 life is probably not that big of a deal. Let's see. Cradle. That's a fun one. All right. Let's see. Send the clowns. Cantrip. On the opponent's upkeep. They'll have the Force of Will for the card that kind of, let's say, tips the scale in my opponent's favor. Land is a bad draw. I have a lot of bad draws here. The thing is, if I attack 2 more times, that's 14. My opponent can gain 2. That's, you know, I have exactly lethal in 3 swings here if nothing happens. Let's see what this is. Looks to be Broadside Bombardier. Yeah, that is one of those cards that will tip the race in the opponent's favor here, changing the Cub for a Guardian. That's not something I want. The opponent had to take the damage there from Mana Confluence. They now have how much mana? 2? 3? Let's see what this is. Another Cub. That is beatable. So let's see. The opponent attacks, and now they have how many permanents? They're up to 7 permanents. All right. I'm winning the race. The opponent needs a good draw. I have a bad draw. And now I need my opponent to fizzle or trouble. Sometimes you have to make plays like this, being aggressive, and then if the opponent draws the card they need to stabilize, so be it. But we can't give them more draw steps than necessary. It's funny that the Ancient Tomb, it kind of changed my plans here with the boots, the natural drawn boots. And then the fact that I drew another blue card to pitch to Force kind of let me build an offense here. But yeah, wow, we got lucky here. So let me try and research a little bit. Let's see. Dominique Tudor. Very cool deck. Sideboard has a Foundation Breaker, maybe Lavinia. My opponent has 1 Wasteland in the deck. It looks like Needle is kind of bad against my opponent. It looks like Shadow Spear could easily be good. It is a 2 white of the Reliquary deck. What else? A Johnny Flip. I guess that would be brutal. Protein Hulk. That's amazing. So I think I'm going to do relatively little sideboarding. I wonder how good Ether Spellbomb is against, because it is a, like, it has the energy package with Guida Souls. Have to cut 2 cards here. Am I, maybe I shouldn't be hasting in the matchup. Maybe I'm more interested in the life gain and the trample. I do like Kappa Cannoneer. I think that could be a, like, that could break some symmetry. So can the Emissary. Patchwork I like. Even though it gets chum blocked by, you know, Cubbin and the buddies, I still think it's good. I could see cutting 1 copy of Emery. It's a bit annoying to go down on blue cards, but I think that is pretty reliably my worst card. I'm fighting on the draw. Is that true? I could just cut a Bauble and kind of, you know, hedge a little bit. I think that's fine. Cutting a Bauble, keeping all blue cards. Okay, yeah, this is a tough deck to play against. Solitude out of my opponent's sideboard. Bowmasters. I mean, I'm sure they can do some upgrades there. Yeah, this deck looks wild. The opponent was for sure living the dream in that challenge. I just saw they won for it the next one, but wait a minute. Is this 2 top 8s with the same list? Oh, the other one was even crazier. Wow. So the other one I saw here is Boros. I guess that's just Boros energy, but still pretty darn impressive work from the opponent. I like it. All right, this hand has what? This hand can force turn 1. This hand can emissary, but not all of those things. So, yeah, let's see what we draw here. London Countryside, essentially just a rainbow land for the mono creature deck. Petal, okay. Huh. So how do we play now? Turn 1, I can go Warp, Mox, Petal, Automaton. But maybe Emery's better in that play. Maybe Emery. Is Emery better? What I could do is simply just go land, Mox, Petal. Or wait a minute. Land, Petal, Automaton, Mox, grow this to a 2/2. Play Emery, get that going. Use Emissary as my force fodder for later, and then kind of use Emery and Patchwork to build an offense. I have spud removal, I have force blue card. Let me try and see here. How impressive are the flyers? The flyers are awesome because it makes future Kappa Cannoneer better. But the problem is I don't have that Kappa Cannoneer, and Emery actually digs for that card. Let's see. 1, 2, Automaton, grow it, play Emery. Okay, I'm going to try this line. Then Mox Opal is going to be my 3rd artifact and actually grow the Patchwork. Patchwork could just be an annoying attacker over and over. Let's see what we can hit here. Any bauble is good. Let's see. Okay, so not the best, but, you know, another Patchwork. It's not bad, right? Keep replaying the Petal. But yeah, no bauble, no juicy stuff like Kappa Cannoneer. Is this like a Cavern of Souls deck? It looks like it's not. I guess they just don't share all the mini creature types. Cards like... It's a little bit annoying the opponent has cards here that I'm supposed to... Forceful... Oh, I missed the Guardian down there. Okay, okay, there's a Guardian. Now, is Guardian better than Patchwork? Let's see. It has a lot to do with whether I need to dismember something or not. Is there a world where I draw like a 0? No. Is there a world where I draw, I should ask, an additional force? I go Emissary. No, probably not. Let's see what this is. Double red. This looks like to be Vibrance to try and kill the Emery. Cast with... So, Vibrance trying to kill Emery, I cannot allow because Emery is kind of my gas card here. Very annoying that I have to force a will so early, but that's the game. Another Patchwork. So what happens if I go Patchwork Automaton, replay Petal, Patchwork Automaton, replay Petal? The question is if that is better than a 3/4 flyer. Because that's my alternative, to replay a 3/4 flyer out of the yard. If this is my last Emery activation, what do I want? 3/4 flyer. I feel like the patchworks can be better over time. Let's do it like this. Play patchwork, replay pedal. Hold up dismember if I need it. Attack. For every turn that Emery stays in play, this gets a lot worse for the opponent. And I have dismember for any key creature that will flip the switch, so to speak. If my opponent has Vibrance here, I'm still winning pretty handily on board. And any artifact I draw, I mean, I guess aside from Seed of the Synod, will make that worse for the opponent. Let's see what this is. A double spell turn with Cub. Okay. Think. Is this a turn where I kill the Cub in response to the Earthbend? So they only have 1 mana to work with instead of 2. Then I get in 1 more hit. I could see that. I'm actually gonna, I'm gonna pounce here. Let's see. The opponent's gonna gain a life. I'm gonna accept that. Now let me dismember here. And then the plan is to play a 3/4 flyer out of the graveyard, swing in for a ton, and try if I can like exhaust my opponent essentially. They do have some a chump blocker lined up, but in general, if my opponent enters, you know, chump block city, I'm not too scared about that. Okay, the no attack. Shadow Spear, is that good? I think I'm just going to use it to grow for now. Replay Guardian. Endurance Pitch. That is something the opponent could play. All right. Cast Artifact from the graveyard. Grow the boys. Play Shadow Spear. Grow the boys. Try and attack for 10. The Trample is going to be relevant next turn. Because usually the patchworks, you know, they can be chum blocked, etc. And now we also entered the stage where Emery has done all the work. So from here on out, it's like I play with house money on the Emery. The opponent needs some really powerful fair play in here. I'm trying to look at their list. Gonna be tough with the trample coming in next turn. Chum blocking here is free, but they also have to think about this game down the line. And some of their answers to these, they take the damage. Okay. Some of the answers are, you know, of course taxed by the ward, so we're really trying to put on the pressure here. Let's see what the opponent can do. 4 mana at their disposal. Let's see if the Time Walk play last turn can pay off. Green Sun Zenith, maybe? Okay, here's a Cub. So now the opponent is trying to buy back the tempo I stole from them last turn. What's it gonna be, buddy? 4 mana available. No flyers here. You need 1,000,000 toughness because the Guardian connects. Let's see. Wistfulness, and then pay 2 to kill the biggest patchwork. Exile even. Okay. Oh, wow, they take the flyer. Ooh, okay. I don't mind. The opponent now has 3 energy. They're up to 8. Ooh, they even have a white here. That's cool. Okay, okay. The opponent's cooking. So now is the opponent going to attack? 5/5 white. We'll trade off the patchwork. I'm probably just going to replay a petal here so I can equip the Shadow Spear. No attack from the opponent. Okay, that was a good draw. So let's play Guardian. Let's replay Petal and equip the big one. And now it gets a little bit exciting to see how the opponent blocks. Pay 2 mana. Equip over here. Attacking with both, I think, is safe. Let's do the math here. The opponent has how much damage? 6, 7, 8. The opponent is actually... Nah, no, never mind. I'm have lifelink here. The opponent's not close at all. And the opponent, first of all, they have to throw in monsters. And then afterwards, they also have to, you know, have creatures in play. So this is a take 7 situation where I get rid of the white. Okay. Yes. Yes. Now the opponent needs a very, very strong magic card off the top of the deck. Otherwise, they just lose to the Trampler. And if they get... I think they just lose to the Flyer then. I'm not sure they have outs here. Chaos Cradle. I guess I'll have to read this card. What is more? Sure. The opponent's trying to see if they have enough toughness. But I have a Flyer over here, so... Yeah, the opponent... I had very good draws here, and... I mean, the opponent's deck is kind of wonky, but I put on a lot of pressure here. I'm pretty happy with how I played the Dismember Steam Clutch at the time. Who knows? That can also backfire in a game, but... Yeah, sweet game. Good start here. Let's see if we can keep it up. All right. Match 2 is upon us. Match 1 got delayed, so I wasn't really sure if round 2 was going to start, but I guess we got lucky here. All right, win the die roll. That's never something you'll hear me complain about. Let's see if we have a solid hand here. It looks very solid against any fair deck. This is turn 1 Emery, turn 2 pretty impressive things. Not sure what my opponent's playing. Doesn't matter too much for this hand. Here's Emery. If that card gets killed, I mean, it is what it is. And I would have to draw, you know, a land or an artifact or something to get going. Let's see what this is. Thoughtseize, not too effective against Emery. But it looks like at least the opponent can try and buy time by taking the Spell Bomb. Maybe they have Snuff Out. I guess I shouldn't be too confident here. Taking Kappa Cannoneer, leaving Emery in play. Not ideal. Here's Opal. Wait a minute. Wait a minute. I can get to... Okay, well. So let me cast Bauble here. Bauble. Spell Bomb. Opal. Guardian. Guardian. I guess let's do this before Orcish Bowmasters enters the equation. The logic being, if Emery survives, I'm in a great spot regardless. Bloodstained Mire is a little scary. I could have a Gristlebrand on my hands here. I'm hoping I'm playing against Emir Tempo and my opponent has no chance. Okay, that was not the case. Yeah, I could be in trouble here. Passing the turn. So Let's see if this is some Bowmaster situation. Sink into Stupor makes it so that I can play Kappa Cannoneer from the graveyard, I believe. Is that lethal next turn? Kappa. Then next turn I can do what? If I make a Kappa Cannoneer, that's 11. That's not lethal next turn. 12, 13 probably. Okay. So if I'm looking at a 3-turn clock, am I better off just replaying a Petal from the graveyard holding up Sync? Memory Guardian seems pretty hard to beat for my opponent. Alright, we can try that line. Replay Petal, hold up Sing into Stupor as a Time Walk card. Orcish Bowmasters doesn't interact with what I have going on here. Let's see if that is indeed the card I'm fighting. Pass. This is any kind of fair deck. I love my position. Here's Orcish Bowmasters. That's all good. Because then the best play the opponent can make here is something like, I don't know, Baragoyf. This could be some Moon Shadow deck, I guess. Mono black, aggro style. Let's see if I'm right about the Baragoyf. Third Swamp it is. And here is Baragoyf. So we have successfully predicted the future again. And now I'll attack for 6 in the air, and the Baragoyf doesn't matter. No attack. It's kind of funny. Well, if I play Patchwork in 2 zeros, I think that's to play Patchwork. Replay, I guess, Petal for the bounce available. So the Kappa Cannoneer never became relevant this game, which is kind of funny. Okay, the opponent realizes that 2 swings in the air is game over. Okay, playing against that deck. I like Shadow Spear. I probably like Needle Wasteland. This is probably a pretty easy cut for Force of Wills against the black deck line. And then have a couple of Dismembers for interaction, a couple of Needles for Wasteland, and then just an additional Trinket because why not? Baragoyf is very, very good. If I could land Disruptor Flute before they cast Baragoyf, that is kind of solid. Maybe I'm supposed to have a single flute for that scenario. That should be decent. The thing is, when you have both Spear and Booch in your deck, you frequently get into spots where if you get to the point where you crack your Saga, you're in such a good spot that that's not really worth playing towards, like having both available. I mean, I'm sure this will come up, but I think with Bowmasters in the opponent's deck, it's better for me to have the life cushioning, especially if my part of my plan is Patchwork Automaton getting big. So yeah, I'm okay with a single flute here. Spellbomb is good. Singed Stupor can do something against Baragoyf. But yeah, Baragoyf is very good against Affinity. Alright. This hand looks better than it is because I'm playing against a discard deck, but that is also the reason why I have to keep this. So there's that. Let's see. If I draw a 0, is this turn 1 Kappa? I don't think so. Let's see. Seat of the Synod, Pinnacle, this guy with a friend. Yeah, I think it's 1 off, even if I draw a 0, but this is fine. If I have like slow Kappa Cannoneer, that's great as well, right? Let's see if this is a creature or a discard spell. Nethergoyf. I accept that card. Here's a bauble. I think I should emissary here. Let's do that. Emissary. They can have snuff out here, of course. That card is very good against emissary. They don't. Okay. So as I said, I'm 1 off here because I have 5 artifacts in play. Let us have a look at a card in the opponent's hand. Another Nethergoyf. Okay, that's cool. So now I play Kappa Cannoneer next turn. Let's see what I draw here. Another Pinnacle Emissary. Maybe that card is good. Let's see. All right, opponent. You now have to choose if you're racing or what the plan is. Hymn would be awesome for the opponent. Thoughtseize is awesome, but I think they would have led on that card. Let's see what else they can do. I guess it's not a Moon Shadow situation. Let's see what this is. Yeah, I mean, this could be anything from Dark Confidant to Sinkhole to Hymn to Torak to Sheldred's Edict. Okay. That was really unimpressive. Let's see if I can still do what I want to do. So if I go Pinnacle, I go Ancient Tomb, I go Spear. So let's see. If this is tapped and I go Pinnacle, I go Ancient Tomb. So now I have 2, 3, 4, 5, and then I accelerate 1 with the Emissary. Pinnacle Emissary. Here is Kappa Cannoneer. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and the blue. Here's another token. So my opponent could for sure have another Sheldred's Edict. So right now I'm basically just, which is not fair at all, I'm just assuming my opponent didn't think about that if they kill a 1/1 here, that, you know, this card would actually handle the Kappa Cannoneer. Because you name non-token, right? Yeah, it looks like the opponent didn't think about that. Yeah, that sucks. So now I kind of have to. The opponent lets me untap here. That's super weird. Because the best play by far is to like equip the Kappa Cannoneer, right? But I'm thinking about that sink into stupor, I must say. So this is basically, if my opponent had the Sheldred's Edict, they should have cast it, right? But if I don't give my opponent that credit, I think it's just better to attack with the guys here and hold up the sink. That's kind of like a time walk. And I'm pretty firmly winning the race. And if they have the Edict, I'll be somewhat excited to cast my sink into stupor and get in for damage. So I guess let's pass. Opponent's at 10, and I have a bunch. End step ritual is really funny. Is this like opposition agent or whatever? That is opposition agent. The opponent has 1 magic card in hand. I don't think you have that edict, buddy. Let's return this. And then on my next turn, I have the artifact ready. And I can get in there for lethal. If my opponent draws the edict, it is what it is. I'm still doing fine for myself with the drones. Yeah, the edict to kill a 1/1, which the only point of killing the 1/1, aside from growing the Nethergoyf, that's fair, was to delay the Kappa. But if the opponent just uses the top mode, this is like, it's not a traditional edict, right? Then they can force me to sacrifice this card. But yeah, I mean, it is what it is. Magic's a hard game, so I'm just pointing out the opponent had the tools to crush me here and leave me with the tokens at least, right? And then I'll have to draw a good card. That was very good because that allows me to play the Emissary, play the Spell Bomb, get the bonus. So we were in good spot here. I'm just saying the opponent could have done slightly better here. All right, 2-0, not bad. All right, round 3 of the challenge here. I'm on the draw versus a known tempo gamer. This hand has a Saga and an Ancient Tomb and some potential, so this is going to have to do, and we hope to not get run over, I guess. This card is very good against Pinnacle and less good against Urza's Saga. So, with my opponent being a Bowmaster deck, how do I balance this? Because if I fire these baubles, I give up on Emissary equity and Kappa equity. Yeah, that's a rough one. That is a little bit of a rough one. Firing these off. So let's see. Next turn, I would go activate. Another problem is I really don't want to make a 1/1. Because then that can get Bowmastered. Like the first Saga token I'm making. What if I draw 3, then the draw step? This card looks a little bit silly. But I'm getting closer to blue source, etc. I guess I can do this on my own deck. If I just see a 0 here, I can kind of go for these. Sink into Stupor. That means next turn... Nope. Next turn is kind of blocked off here. Okay. I'll use some strawberry ice cream scoops to cycle here. Nethergoyf. Okay. So we're up against the Nethergoyf version. This is a little bit tricky because Bowmaster wants me to fire these. Some other cards want me to slow roll these, and we can end up in a weird spot. So now Force Stupor is solid. Let's see how fast this game is. Wasteland is awesome for the opponent. Here's Ponder because they want to look for Wasteland. So I'm, of course, hoping they don't get there. They don't get there. Okay. I'm rooting pretty hard for Nethergoyf here, not going to lie. Okay, another one. So they now flip the Tamiyo. I think that is something I have to accept because I'm going to be hitting in pretty big chunks at some point. I don't think I'm allowed to force a will here. I should do that later to, like, get through Kappa, etc. All right. Here's flip Tamiyo. Pretty good. Can I draw 0? I can't. So all I can do now is play this. And now I end up in that troublesome situation where my opponent's Bowmaster can kill my first Saga token, which is pretty bad. Ooh, very good for the opponent. Saga dead. And they want to kill it. I think I have to fight over this. Let's see, if this dies, and I go Emissary, play Boots, get a token, equip Boots, hit Tamiyo, that's a plan B at least. The thing is, the opponent has a Nethergoyf. How big is that Nethergoyf? That is sorcery land instant. That's a 3/4. This Sink into Stupor can also bounce, but that's too far away, essentially. I say all of that to say this. I think I have to fight over this Fatal Push by pitching Kappa Cannoneer, because the game could be over before that card even matters. Yeah, this is tough. Cool draw from the opponent. So here's the 3-4. If they had dazed, they would have dazed me. There's another Kappa. So let's just double check the logic. Play this. Play Emissary. A Warp. Ooh, very strong. That gets countered. So now Boots doesn't do anything, right? Boots doesn't do anything. The opponent gets to Tameo to 8. But I think I get a hasty Kappa swing in before. Let's see if I'm right. Do I get a hasty Kappa swing in before? Mill over the Wasteland. Draw with Clue. Go to 8. Ancient Tomb. Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1 left over, I believe, for the equip. Let's see if the opponent found what they needed. They did not. So equip. Hit Tameo for 5. And I'm in a little bit of a bad racing situation here. Life total not looking good. But I had to do this, otherwise I'd simply just lose the game, right? Tameo taking back Fatal Push is a good one. I get attacked to 4, so now my tombs are kind of off. Pinnacle Emissary. So I can Emery. And I have to play defense, in other words. I think that's how I play here. So I can go Emery, try and put boots on it. I guess replay a bauble. Pretty cool game. Pretty cool game. Emery with boots on. Does that make any sense? Emery, Saga, replay a bauble for drawing, I guess. Okay, let's cast Emery first, see what happens. Mill 4, because I could find some useful stuff here. Is Patchwork useful stuff? Going to 2 here, potentially. Versus Saga. I can now equip the Emery. I think I have to play defense with Kappa. And I would love to get an artifact into play. Maybe that's just supposed to be the Patchwork. Then what happens? If my opponent has Bowmaster, then what? Push, Bowmaster, block the big one, take 2. Yeah, then I'm dead. The question is if replaying Bauble is much better. I feel like I have maybe 1 Ancient Tomb activation this game. but that's a big maybe. Let me try and equip the Emery. What? Snuff out on the Emery. Okay, I guess that makes it a little bit easier for me. So, I mean, the opponent has a fatal push, so I might as well attack. Sure, let's attack. I'm at 4, trying to play defense with a Kappa. The opponent takes the damage. And here's the Bowmaster. So 3. This puts me almost dead, I think. Because I can block 1 and go to 1. Yeah, this is going to get very tight. Double Wasteland, triple removal was good. I guess the Tameo also. That's just so strong. The opponent keeps the cards on Ponder. That's a bad sign. Yeah, Ancient Tomb added up here. Nethergoyf did a very good job. But now the opponent is going to put me at 1. So now I need to draw. We know about the push. So now I need to draw a land that doesn't hurt me, essentially. I just assume I'm dead here. Let me put it that way. If the opponent kept these cards, is that force blue card, or what's the... If they make this attack, it's to say, I can never use an Ancient Tomb. And this accomplishes more or less the same thing, except a Bowmaster at any point, you know, if this game drags on, it will kill me, right? I just assume if the opponent has a Bowmaster, they don't think here, right? Okay, so here's Murktide Regent. So now I wonder if I can draw something. That is certainly not it. Because I needed to make a flyer here. I needed something like Emissary, make a flying blocker. But this gets the job done on the side of my opponent. All right, cool game. Every life point mattered there. That was awesome. Blue-black. I think this is going to be my plan. I don't like the forces. A little bit of removal never hurt anybody. Extra needle for mainly Wasteland, but I guess Flip Tameo was pretty good that game, to say the least. And the rest of the deck is pretty darn solid. All right, well played. Well played by the opponent. Finding a good mix between Disruption and Clock. That's a good way to beat Affinity. Because usually those decks struggle against, you know, Emery, Kappa, just a lot of annoying cards across the board. But the opponent, you know, did a good job to handle Saga before, you know, it got to be a problem. Punish the Ancient Tombs. Ooh, this is terrible. This is not something I can keep. It's always sad to mulligan hands like that. Okay. Let's see. This looks like turn 1 Emery. Do I get rid of the automaton here? Or do I get rid of the pedal? I feel like if this Emery gets dealt with, I'm kind of screwed. Alternative is Patchwork and keep attacking and then kind of have Emery later. That would probably be a game where my opponent has to force Patchwork. So that's the thing, right? It's better if they have to force Patchwork, because then Emery rebuilds. Where if I blow my load and play Emery and that gets either forced or pushed, I'm in trouble. So now I have to put a bauble away and try and present a 3/3 patchwork. Okay. Wait, 1, 2. A 2/2 patchwork. Yeah, this is not pretty. This is not pretty. Opal, petal, bauble, patchwork. Bauble. I think I need to crack one bauble here. Otherwise, oh, there's Force of Will. That's a problem. Not gonna lie. Yeah, this is very all in and not very impressive. Ooh, I cracked the bauble too soon. That was bad. Yeah, that was bad because let's imagine I draw a better card than Emery here. Then I look like a super fool. So I should have done this now or, you know, later on their turn, essentially. All right, get that card out of there. Draw Shadow Spear. So now I can, if this resolves, I can crack this bauble. And I'm going to do it now because of Bowmasters. This draw is not very strong, but I think I did what I had to do here. All right, opponent. You're almost at Fatal Push mana. Memory Guardian. That's not bad. That probably gets forced. What if I play Patchwork? Does that get forced? Maybe I have to do that. I think I have to play like this because if this Guardian gets forced, this Patchwork is so much worse later. Force a Will. Let's see if this is a snuff out. It's not. It's Orhis Bowmasters. All right. So now the opponent can chum block. And this game looks quite simple for the opponent, unfortunately. This getting forced is, I guess, a small victory. So now if I draw any land, I can follow up with Guardian. But it looks like we have a problem on our hands here. I'm keeping the Ponder once again. All right. Nether Goyf, at the very least, is too slow. Okay, I break here. Yeah, that's probably the game. All right, I think that was my chance. If I draw land there and I slam the Guardian, attack for 6, threaten lethal in the air over a couple of turns, I think that was my window. All right, we get demolished here by just a solid draw to Dimir. Nothing special. My draws were just quite poor. That's sometimes, you know, the ups and downs of any deck, really. Here's the Fatal Push to ice the game. Is now not even. I think Cena the Synod lets me play. This one gives me. Let's see. So I should hold this card because if I draw. Nope, that's not it. I don't think I should hold this card. Should play it and pass. Yeah, I needed to drop the Guardian there and get away with it. Now the opponent has too much time to find, you know, Edict, Brazen, Kaito, Murktide, Thoughtseize. Yep, here's Mox Opal. Play Guardian. So is this good enough? Let's see. Okay, I think that was just in time there for the opponent. That was awesome. Pedal. So now if I go pedal, I can go Kappa, but Kappa is going to be smaller than Baragoyf. So Baragoyf is going to connect. Then the opponent's going to go to 11. The following turn, I have 8, 9, equip 10 damage. I think I'm one off from being able to win here after the perfect draw. Yep. There's a little bit of error message. Play Kappa. Have a 5/5. Pass. Take the hit by Baragoyf. Go to 5. The opponent goes to 11. And then maybe I have a Hail Mary with the bauble. No, I don't, because I have to tap it now. Never mind. The Baragoyf is one too big in order to have a game here. Okay, let's just play it out. I think I'm dead here. Oh, also I'm 1 artifact short. Okay, well, lots of thinking for nothing. We lose to Demir Tempo, and we try and do better next round. Good games, opponent. Guys, last month I launched my YouTube membership program. You can become a YouTube Baron. For $5 per month, you get Metagame Monday After Dark, where I basically dissect all the numbers from Metagame Monday, turn them into actual solutions for us to win tournaments in the week to come. And then I have this juicy series with Eureka Eyes on the Prize, where we replay the 5 challenge finals every week. So basically, we get to see some championship action week after week. So that's 2 additional videos for the cost of $5 per month. I can highly recommend. But wait, there's more. When I get to 100 members, I will give away this awesome artist proof signed Kappa Cannoneer. Beautiful card, a retro frame hollow. If you want to be in that draw, go become a YouTube Baron. I hope to see you over there. All right, guys, we're getting ready for round 4 here of the challenge. I must say, I'm feeling a little bit fatigued, a little bit under the weather, but hopefully a little bit of winning can cure that. And the show must go on, right? We got our ass handed to us by Blue-Black in that match. Didn't really stand much of a chance. That's just how competitive Magic is these days, right? You get a little bit of subpar draws, and the opponent has a little bit of a better draw. Yeah, the game's gonna be quite rough. All right. This player's name rings a bell. Let me look it up here. I think the player. I may be misremembering here. Yeah, they play a lot of Doomsday and Vintage. That's what I was thinking here. Not sure about Legacy. Looks like last time was an Eldrazi finish, but we're not going to put too much into that. So what do I think about this hand? This hand looks incredibly slow. I'll have turn 2 Patchwork with a Saga, play Bauble, make it a 2/2. Then the following turn, that would be turn 3. Let's see. Turn 3, do I then just start making tokens? Turn 3. Huh. I feel like this is losing against many, solid draws out of almost any Legacy deck. Especially Stompy decks. Okay, I'm gonna click the mulligan button here. I'm not gonna love it. This is a lot better. So is this turn 1 Kappa if I draw a 0? I think it is. Maybe it is already. Let's see. No, I need to draw a 0. Maybe I put back Sink into Stupor because of that. All right, let's try and get lucky here and draw a 0. And this is not Eldrazi. What deck is this? Therapy? Okay, we're just getting cooked by fast reanimator here. All right. Yeah, that's a big problem. No force set up against fair deck. The opponent will draw a million cards and beat us here. All right. Fast reanimator with green splash confirmed. All right. That's a very nasty surprise. Because I need all of these, but I don't want all of those. Spell bomb out, needle out. I do keep this one for hasty purposes. I think it's okay to trim an automaton here. Blue cards are good overall. Emery digs for Tormod's Crypt. This member handles the Smock guy. I think it's fine to trim Bauble when I just add Crypt. That's kind of more zeros, right? Maybe this is okay. Full counter suite. Remove all the Kappas because they're slow. Okay. Yeah, turn one Atraxas, you know, that'll do it. Not much to say about that. It's funny, I've been playing against some weird decks today. Well, not necessarily, well, some of them have been weird, right? But it's not exact, like Demir Tempo and then 3 1% decks, 0.5% decks. And funnily enough, this deck wants to play against Demir Tempo every round, so Magic is unpredictable. Nothing is for sure. Let's see if we can have a 7 that we can keep. That would be pretty good. This looks like a 7 we can keep, so I played turn 1 Guardian. I cantrip the Bauble, and I hope to find another blue card, I guess. Bauble, Petal, Ancient Tomb, 3 mana Guardian. It ain't much, but it's honest work. Bauble. There's a reanimate. Let's see if I can complete the blue card here. I draw the blue card. So now hopefully I can get the game into the dirt here. Therapy on me is the nightmare. Because that will name Force Will in the dark 99 times out of 100. Unmask on themselves. I cannot allow that. I should pitch Force Will here, I feel like. The reason to pitch Sync, let's think here, is if I draw another blue card and I need to use this for blue mana at some point. The reason to pitch Force of Will is, yeah, exactly that. The reason to pitch Sync is then if I draw a random blue card, I'm discard proof. Okay, I think that's more important. So let's Force indicate that on Mask. Also note that, yeah, I need to do this as well. Well, double Force onto your discard outlets, and now I hope to get there with my with my Memory Guardian before you recover. So I know you have Reanimate in hand. I know you have a creature in hand. And I know I have a 7-turn clock. So it doesn't really add up here. Yeah, this is the only way I can win the game. The opponent, you know, gets to a low enough life total that reanimating, you know, from the cleanup doesn't work. This also works. So it looks like the opponent is off reanimated and is onto something like Shallow Grave, because now they go to the natural cleanup step. Yeah, this is really, really funny. Tormod's Crypt, baby. That is not a Tormod's Crypt. Well, this makes me discard proof, which is hilarious. And now the opponent's at 5, so Reanimate is a dead card. So I guess I'm secretly rooting to get discarded. Or here's hopefully just 2 mana reanimation. Let's see if the opponent has a collective brutality and they actually have the audacity to cast that first. Funnily enough, yeah, this looks like collective brutality. Yes, this is fine. Because then they have to clear the remaining force the next turn. They'll go to 6. That is a 2-turn clock. So now the opponent can win if they have something like Ritual Double Reanimation. Emery. I'm not sure playing out the Emery does anything, but I think I should assume that it does something rather than the opposite, because I have what I need here. Cannot hardcast. Yeah, let's just do this. I guess the only downside here is the opponent could see that have boarded in Tormod's Crypt. They need to cast double 2 mana reanimation here. All right, looks like I have successfully forced a game 3. The opponent now knows about me running a million forces. Yeah, that is super tricky. So now what does the opponent do with that info? I'm really not sure they can do much of anything. They didn't bring in the smock thing from where I'm sitting. The good thing about it is, even if they don't bring in the smock thing, my forces are still good, right? Then I just have 2 bad dismembers. And if they do bring in that, the cost is I just have 3 bad crypts, right? Because these cards are still alive. So there's crossover here between the forces always being live, and then either crypts are live or dismembers are live. And then again, I'm playing a deck with Pinnacle Emissary, Automaton, Saga tokens, you know, Affinity cards. So crypt is never terrible. It's always a 0. So let's see. The thing about the boots is, am I ever tutoring hasty boots if I could just tutor Tormod's Crypt in that spot? It's a spot where the game has the game has gone on, right? Maybe this card is just bad and I should have a 0 instead. Let's do that. I don't know if I explained my point well here. If I natural draw this card, it's always kind of unexciting, right? At least the bauble is one more look for a force. And if I get to the Saga Chapter 3, in how many cases am I actually fetching this? So that would be in cases where it's lethal or it gets them out of reanimate range or whatever. But it just seems like in those spots, a crypt will do the same unless I also put, I could put like Spellbomb in my deck so that with this card in play, they can't smock me, right? So I think that would be better because it then puts me at, you know, 3 interactive pieces for that. Maybe we should do that instead of a bauble. I guess they could beat a fatty in a pinch or whatever against Shallow Grave specifically. All right. I am going to keep this hand and accept to lose on turn 1. I think there's a decent chunk of games where my opponent understands what they just saw last game and will have accept slower hands. Of course, if my opponent just has to close your eyes, lose to Force of Will, you know, it is what it is. Ooh, okay. Show and tell could also be a thing here. Huh. Let's see. I think I can do it all here and hold up Dismember against the smock combo. So, okay. Let's play Tormod's Crypt. Let's play Petal. Let's play Emery. See what we find here. Another Crypt, but no proactive artifact stuff. I guess the bauble here is exactly that. Developer's a Saga. So now I'm kind of forcing my opponent to be a show and tell deck. Am I interested in drawing the card now? What could the card be? I actually don't think I'm supposed to do it now, because if my opponent has some slow hand, I would actually prefer... Ooh, here's the blue. So am I up against show and tell here? Am I up against show and tell? That's the question. And if I am, I mean, I don't play Kappa. I'm just going to let my opponent play here. If I'm getting show and tell, it is what it is. Let's see. This could be Collective Brutality. Thoughtseize. Okay. So Thoughtseize takes care of Dismember. The opponent didn't fetch green. I'm a little bit scared about the opponent fetching blue. I gotta be honest with you. So let's fire the bauble to see. Atraxa. Yes, that didn't really teach me much of anything. So now I should replay the bauble because it gives me the most looks for force. Do that. And now I'm relying on Saga stuff. Let's draw magic cards. Unmask. That's a good one if show and tell is actually part of the plan. Unmask, reanimate. Okay. I guess the last card could be show and tell. I've seen 3 of my opponent's cards. If they have show and tell, draw land, or vice versa, I'm cooked. Force of will and force negation. That is some serious draws. Sheesh. If my opponent is in fact on the reanimation plane, they're in trouble here. Looks like it. That's crazy. Activator is a Saga. Untap. Activator is a Saga. Go Tutor. This is kind of the situation I talked about. Is this where I go and grab Spellbomb? Hide behind a lot of hate? Yeah, I think so. Replay Tormod's Crypt. Play land, attack for 6, kill my opponent next turn. Yeah, this is pretty powerful. How do you get out of this opponent? Having double force here is criminal. Also, a little bit of an underrated aspect here is game 2. My opponent didn't see any Tormod's Crypt. They just saw a million counters. So this basically motivated my opponent to be a reanimator deck. And then when I actually drew Crypt for the 3rd game, it really hurt them. So I think I got a little bit lucky on top of course, having like a super respectful setup against combo. 8 forces, Crypts, and what have you. Hedging a little bit with Dismember. Crossing my fingers against show and tell. I guess this is... If they show and tell Atraxa here, I think this card still wins, because Atraxa can probably not produce another fatty, and I can Spellbomb twice. So maybe this card is a little bit better than I initially gave it credit for. Anyways, I was happy that I found it before the time ran out. I think it's slightly better than a bauble, but nothing special. All right, we're still in the race. Let's keep going. All right, round 5. I'm currently 3-1 with Affinity, and this hand is a weird one. Guess it's a keep. I'm playing against a known Delver player. This is turn 1 patchwork. Make it a 3/3 and trip up bauble. Yeah, this is not that great, but I think it's playable because this card sometimes is just very good against, you know, fair stuff. But this hand is not that impressive, to be honest. I will look to draw something like Saga, more artifacts, maybe the 3/4. Let's see. Damage. This will get sacrificed. This will get sacrificed. Yeah, this hand is really not great. Kind of a bad mix here with all of these damage lands. I guess this will be a scrappy one. Maybe if I just keep drawing random stuff like baubles or Saga, this is fine. Because then they kind of grow this one and keep the ball rolling, so to speak. My opponent's last spotted on Izzet with hexing Squelcher instead of Delver, so that's good news, I guess. The plan is to grow this out of bolt range before the opponent can bolt it. But yeah, this is not perfect at all because I have bad cards like Kappa. Force of Will is reasonable here. Can I cast a 3/4 with 2 artifacts? Yeah, I can cast a 3/4 on turn 2 if I draw it, so I guess that's fine. All right. Let's see what we're working with here. Pedal, sink, take the damage, patchwork, bauble, pedal. I guess I didn't. Okay, we're already clowning. I shouldn't have cast that pedal because I could draw emissary. Yeah, that was bad. Okay, I need to play better. Okay, the opponent's back on Delver, which is a lot better against me. Kappa. Let's see if that is good. Could be later. Play Saga. Kind of. The plan is here to kind of keep my opponent busy. Well, that brainstorm speeds up the clock meaningfully. Should I just bounce the Delver here? Sack a pedal to bounce a Delver. It doesn't sound that exciting, but I think it could be a good tempo play. Bounce that, basically saying you need the days now, which you had. Okay. Now the Delver's going to flip. I'm going to take damage from Sink. Yeah, this is not, you know, foolproof. Opponent flips with Ponder. Let's see. Ooh. Saga gets wasted. All right. Let's see what I can do. I feel like if I draw any artifact, I'm winning the race. The opponent's considering a no attack here. Okay. They think better of it. And here. Should I make this a 4/4 is basically what I'm trying to ask. I think the answer is yes. Pinnacle. Unfortunately, no artifacts. Play this. Simply just grow it once. Very unimpressive, but I think I have to do it. I've had a lot of scrappy draws today. Sometimes you get nut draws and you just dominate your opponent. Sometimes you're really in trouble here. Okay, so there's Murktide region in my future. I don't like that. I do like that draw, however. That's kind of a way to win this game. Force a Murktide and give myself a chance at racing. Okay, so the opponent has some bolt draw, I guess. Well, that card is not going to grow my creature. I'll now have to force the second lightning bolt. Smells a little bit of that, unfortunately, with the opponent passing there. Questing, seek the beast, end of turn. I think I have to hope my opponent has some bad cards here. These cards are not necessarily bad, but it could be bad. There's the land. Here's a fetch. Maybe the opponent is trying to... Okay, they want to block her here. I need to believe here. If the opponent does not have force, I have a chance. All right, here's Questing Druid. Here's the Brainstorm. So if my opponent attacks with Delver, I can draw Sink into Stupor for lethal. Here they can educate. That's cool. They can use Bobble to educate their attack step. I guess I'm not drawing. I'm not drawing that card. I'm drawing Memory Guardian. So let's slam that and get dazed. Force the chum block. And then die to Lightning Bolt. All right, that was a sweet game. Let's see if we can draw slightly better in the next game. I think we will need it. Tempo. So I can play that card and that card. These cards are solid. I keep running into situations where I wish I had Shadow Spear in the main deck. I might make some kind of adjustment. Yeah, I think I should add the Dismembers over Force, but I don't love it. Delver was a nasty surprise. I really wanted my opponent to play the terrible Hexing Squelcher version. But not this time. Dismember is really troublesome. I wish I had some solid crossover here that could even be like one Hydroblast. Something along those lines. All right, this is not a hint. This is somewhat of a hint. So what happens if I get away from... What happens if I put back a Seed of the Synod? Then I go... Seed of the Synod. Yeah. I get rid of a seat, and I try and curve Guardian into Kappa. This is post-sideboard with Pyroblast, which makes Guardian in play and Kappa on the stack kind of a target. But you gotta do what you gotta do here. I guess in theory, my opponent keeps, like, turn one Chandler, some cutter draw, and we can sneak these guys into play. This is exactly 6 for the Kappa on turn 2. Opal, Petal, Seat, 2-mana Guardian, pass. Don't melt down me, bro. Passing here, okay. I draw a Bauble, which funnily enough lets me play around Daze. What's more important, Daze or 3-man damage? Daze on the draw. Okay. I'm gonna respect Daze here. Let's see how that works out. There's Kappa Cannoneer on the stack. Gets Pyroblasted any day of the week. I'm hoping it's Consigned Memory that's in the opponent's hand. If this gets pyroed, I'm losing a lot. I need this to be exactly Desperado Brainstorm. Because I'm not winning this game if Kappa gets dealt with, and then I need to get incredibly lucky. Kappa's in play. Let's see what the opponent can do about this. Meltdown would make me super all in. That's not a Meltdown. That is a Delver. Okay. So I should cast this card. Question is if I should warp it or not. I should probably play it as a 3/3. The opponent was holding up Consign. Should I sack a pedal here? That's the question. Save damage. Let's see. If I warp this, I have unblockable on Kappa 2 turns in a row. 6 now, 7 next turn. That's 13, and then 2 hits. Okay, that's lethal over 2 turns. Okay. I'll try and warp. Because it allows me to have double artifact. Basically triggering the Kappa twice. If the opponent now found a counter, what would that be? That would be exactly Pyroblast. They can counter it. But I just attack in such big chunks. I think they have Consigned Memory with the way they've played. Now I can cash in the bauble and have a very high likelihood. Okay, the opponent's facing a little bit of a connectivity issue, so maybe we can talk a little bit more about this spot. So I'm warping this Emissary because I think the 3/3 body from this one is irrelevant compared to it being an artifact entering that makes Kappa unblockable back-to-back. Because if I get to attack with unblockable Kappa, I like where this game is going. If I can get chump blocked, you know, bad stuff can happen. So that's what this play is about. What I could have done is bobbled myself to learn which mode I should go for, essentially. That could have been better. Yeah, because bobbling my opponent doesn't do anything. I don't have any agency, right? So it doesn't matter. Like, I see Lightning Bolt, what am I going to do? I see Murktide, what am I going to do, right? I can just play my cards. So I guess I should have informed myself with Bobble. So in theory, the opponent can, like, consign the unblockable thing and block it with a Delver, right? Would we take those situations? They can also use later drawn Pyro, consign the War Trigger. So yeah, the opponent has some work to do here, and I would have to be quite unlucky, but that's Magic, right? Maybe that's not crazy to have Pyro, to come up with Pyro and consign before being dead. Maybe that's somewhat reasonable. The whole point is I don't have moves, essentially. But I think if I bobbled there, it would have been slightly better, because I'm going to bobble on this turn cycle anyway, and I don't care about my opponent's card. But my top card might have changed what I did with Emissary. Like, should I take 2? Should I crack my pedal? Stuff like that, right? But let's say I have another Kappa coming, then, I don't really want to crack my pedal. All of that jazz. All right, let me pause until the opponent's back. All right. The game ended in a draw. Look at this beautiful screenshot. Oh, Yeah, Magic Online ended your game on turn 3 in a draw. Seems fair, right? All right, let's see if we can actually play the game here. It's funny that our tournament might be done here. It's always one of those funny situations where, yeah, I was doing very well for myself in that game, right? But I guess I could have been losing as well. So there's always this sense of, oh, I got robbed. But I guess this could have given me a free roll if I was losing on board, right? That's the whole point. All right, let's see. The opponent, I mean, yeah, I don't know what's going on. That whole turning the game into a draw thing, that's really weird. Because if the opponent has connection issues, usually they just, you know, lose to time, right? But here it kind of forces the draw. There's been a little bit of issues today. That's more funny than anything. Kind of a comical screenshot. What did it say again? Magic Online has ended your game on turn 3 in a draw. Okay. It's funny because that's somehow put into the program, right? That some kind of scenario prompts that message, etc., etc. All right, we are on the play. This hand seems great, so I can turn 1 Memory Guardian and lay out some stuff. I cantrip into Thog. I have the Needle. I feel like did we get reset on clock here? I'm not sure. Maybe not. So let's see. How do I sequence here? Seat of the Synod. Play my baubles. Play Guardian. I think what I'm supposed to do is bauble myself once to see if I should crack the other baubles. Let's imagine a case where I have Kappa on top of the deck. Then if I keep 2 baubles around, let's see, 1, 2, 3 artifact, 4 artifact, 5 artifact, then I'm 1 off. So if I have like Kappa into land, Kappa into 0, I'm doing well for myself. Now, here's the golden question. Am I supposed to bauble myself before doing anything? Because if I have exactly Emissary on top, would I then slow roll and then go just turn 1 Needle for the hell of it? The next turn go Emissary, pay out a bunch of cards, get a bunch of 1/1s? Tough to say. Maybe not. Because then, you know, I get Pyroblasted. I could have had a 3/4. Or it gets bolted, right? Yeah. Maybe I just stick to the plan of firing 1 bauble to educate the rest. Sorry about the bad flow of this game. There's just some technical difficulties today on Magic Online, and it's kind of hurting everybody, but mainly our opponent, right? I guess I just got robbed a little bit, but in general, this match is not what defines my happiness, so I'll take it with a smile. We are playing for our tournament life, though. If we win, we're looking very good in the tournament. If we lose, my opponent's at that should be, yeah, the opponent's thinking about how it should be here, but I think it's correct. Here's Memory Guardian. Let's see my top card. Automaton. Is that a card? That is a card that incentivizes me to crack all the baubles, I would say. Wasteland. That is a good one. What's the other card I saw? Pyroblast. So the opponent has some good cards here. So I could go Needle. Needle on Wasteland here. I'll do that. So this is not an exciting play. We knew about that. Okay, I mean, these cards are fine. And now the opponent can kill my Guardian. And they do it now because of Affinity, so well played. Always have to give my opponent credit when stuff like that happens. Okay, this is actually a good chance for me to get down another Guardian, but I should probably prioritize growing the Patchwork. I think that is slightly better. Patchwork, and then next turn I have a cheaper Guardian, which also means if I'm getting dazed, at least it's on this card, but that would be the small victories. Okay. Forcing that card smells of two things, and I hope it's the first one. The opponent's building for, well, the opponent's weak to that card, and the opponent could be building for Murktide Regent, right? Now, with that draw of Sink into Stupor, the Murktide Regent is less of a concern. Seek the Beast in response, finding Pyroblast, Wasteland. So Pyroblast handles it, Wasteland is a dead card. Alright, this is going to be a scrappy game. Here's Pyro into the Guardian. The opponent didn't even play the Wasteland. Now, what do I do with this Spear? I feel like I should hold it because I play Patchwork and Emissary. Let's see. The opponent can now play the green guy, which is quite good because it's very bad to bounce it. So green guy into Murktide could be the play here. Here's the Meltdown. Jeez, that is game over, unfortunately. I don't think I can draw anything here. I guess Emery is my only hope. I'm just jokingly telling my opponent to play game 3. But I don't expect anybody to hand that over. That's like up for judgment, right? All right. Little bit of a sour note that our tournament ends here. I feel like I'm winning that game 9 times out of 10. And that's just how the cookie crumbles. It's been cool to play out this run. Thank you so much for watching. And I hope to see you back soon for some more sweet, sweet Legacy action.